Crystal Palace have identified the perfect replacement for loanee Conor Gallagher, who is set to head back to Chelsea this summer, but Crystal Palace have found the perfect man to replace Conor Gallagher, and that is Cheick Doucoure, who currently plays for RC Lens in Liga, the side who finished 7th place in France last year, and Cheick Doucoure is a brilliant talent in the world of football, and a very exciting player, who I think will be a perfect fit to replace Conor Gallagher. And as we all know, Conor Gallagher is set to head back to Chelsea this summer and fight for a place in the heart of the Chelsea midfield under Thomas Tuchel. But unfortunately for Eagles fans, this will leave a huge hole in the heart of the Crystal Palace midfield under Patrick Vieira. And for me, the reason this team did so well was Conor Gallagher in the heart of that midfield. And this desperately needs to be addressed from Crystal Palace, and I believe Cheick Doucoure is the perfect man to do so, and it looks like Crystal Palace do as well, as they've already come in for a €14.5 million bid for RC Lens midfielder and Cheick Doucoure, but that has already been rejected by RC Lens, as they will not sell him for anything less than €21.5 million. That is a very interesting deal, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do not know much about Cheick Doucoure, or you don't really know how much he is valued at. And you might be saying, is this overpriced? Is this really a good enough deal for him? And for me, this is a A+ signing. This would be a perfect fit to replace Conor Gallagher, because 21.5 million isn't that much. Of course, it could rise to 25. They've been asking for anything in that sort of region and won't be taking anything less. And for me, Crystal Palace need to go get this done. They need to get Cheick Doucoure in as soon as they can, because for me, Cheick Doucoure is a player who could be playing for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United. Chelsea might be stretching it, but he could be playing for Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United, any of those top clubs. He's a brilliant midfielder. At the age of 22, he is a perfect replacement for Conor Gallagher. It has also been stated that the player has already agreed terms with the club, and Palace want the player before their preseason tour in Australia. It already looks like they're the front runners to land Cheick Doucoure. They really seem like the only team in the race as it stands right now, and he would be a brilliant player to land. Of course, they did finish 7 points outside the European spots in France, but he was really the engine that ran this RC Lens side last year. But he is the perfect replacement for Conor Gallagher. Quickly, before we move on to the comparison, I need to talk about the impact that Conor Gallagher had on Crystal Palace last year. Because everyone predicted Crystal Palace to go down last year, they predicted a straight relegation. There was the turnover with so many players going in, so many players coming out, a lot of experienced players leaving the club, and of course a new manager in Patrick Vieira, who's a very inexperienced manager. I would say young, but he isn't really a young man as much anymore, but in the manager world he is. And he was very inexperienced. Everyone expected Crystal Palace to go straight down. They written this Crystal Palace to the Eagles side off. Personally, I predicted them finish mid-table, in which they did. They didn't really struggle at all, and for me, the reason why they didn't struggle was due to Conor Gallagher and his impact at the club. He was brilliant in the heart of the midfield, which what he did was fantastic. The creations he did, the ball progression, whether that was passing the ball or dribbling it through carries, he was utterly fantastic and brilliant last year. And for me, he was the piece that held this side together. He created so many chances. He was brilliant at moving the ball up the pitch. And also, one point that doesn't probably get looked at as much is his defensive work rate. He was truly phenomenal at being an engine and working himself to get back and to fight to win the ball back as well. And he was truly fantastic at that. His defensive contributions probably get looked over, and they shouldn't, because he was brilliant working back as well. And he did score quite a bit of goals last year and have a very good amount of assists, but his ball progression, ball carrying ability is unbelievable. And you saw all those signings, Mark Guy, Anderson, and so many more players coming to Crystal Palace. But Conor Gallagher is the reason this team stayed up, and I solely believe that. And it was down to his defensive work rate, his ability to score goals and create chances, which is what Crystal Palace needed, and they did get it with Conor Gallagher. Truly a brilliant player and was a true exciting talent, which is another reason why everyone says you cannot fall in love with loan players, as West Ham had that same problem last year with Jesse Lingard. Crystal Palace had that with Conor Gallagher, who now is set to head back to Chelsea, which is very unfortunate for the club, but Cheick Doucoure is the right man to fit in and seamlessly do so. We're going to compare them quickly right now because there is so much to look at and so much that is exciting between these two players. If you look at them, they're each 22 years of age and each basically the same height and same body frame, each coming in at 5'11"-ish, and they both are 22 years of age. And one thing that is so fascinating is that each of them featured in 34 matches in their respective leagues, starting 33 of them. You couldn't get a more perfect analytic stats than that. They each were basically fit constantly. No one really played extremely more minutes. You had Cheick Doucoure, who featured in 2,900 minutes, and Conor Gallagher, who featured in 2,845 minutes. Nothing splits these players at all, besides the goals category. Conor Gallagher scored some absolute screamers, some dimes, some fantastic goals, which is why we saw him with 8 goals last year from only an XG of 5.8. He did have 3 assists as well, but if you look at Cheick Doucoure, having a goal from 1.5 XG and 4 assists, these players can't be split. You can look at the goals and say, well, Conor Gallagher does score more and everything like that. But for me, you're getting an all-around midfielder in Cheick Doucoure, who you're going to have for years to come, and you're getting him on a very good fee. 25 million is extremely good, and eventually you're going to be able to flip that for a crazy price. This is a bargain of a deal if they can make this happen, because Cheick Doucoure is eventually going to be looked at by top clubs and eventually going to be bought. Yes, you could ask what the transition to to Premier League is going to be like. It is obviously going to be a very tough transition, but I believe Cheick Doucoure is the right man to do it. Like I said, his pressuring on the ball, he's a very strong player. His defensive work rate is unbelievable. But one thing I find so fascinating as well with Cheick Doucoure is his interceptions and his progressive passes and carries. You basically have them completely close to Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher is a brilliant dribbler of the ball. It was great at getting touches in the opponent's penalty area. But if you look at Cheick Doucoure, he was able to progress the ball, whether that was passing, carrying, pass completion, and he was phenomenal. And his pass completion was among 81st percentile among all midfielders, which is huge because he's a man who didn't just knock it around the back, go side to sides, little 1-2s. He would stretch the pitch, he would move the ball forward, and that is what you got from Cheick Doucoure. And it is truly brilliant. And Cheick Doucoure gets compared to a Granit Xhaka, a Jorginho. And that is why I'm going to talk about in just a second where I think he will fit into the Crystal Palace lineup. But first, we need to exactly say what Cheick Doucoure is going to bring to the Crystal Palace midfield. He will bring you a strong defensive work rate. He will work his backside off to help with defensive contributions, winning the ball back, whether that be in interceptions, a strong tackle, or just constantly staying switched on and concentrated. And that's what you got from a bit of Conor Gallagher as well. Cheick Doucoure loves to play a pass as well as shoot from long distance, which will get some rebounds and creations from that as well. Conor Gallagher, of course, we all know is a perfect comparison to that. Great at blocking the ball, winning back through interceptions. Defensive contribution was out of this world as well, and that is why Cheick Doucoure is the perfect replacement for Conor Gallagher. But does he fit into the system perfectly? Does he fit into the role perfectly? As we all know, Conor Gallagher fitted into this role as a central attacking midfielder for Crystal Palace, where he seamlessly fit into that front three, and that front four as well. But would Cheick Doucoure come in as a central attacking midfielder? Would he come in as a number 10? For me, 100% he would not. Because as we saw Cheick Doucoure this year, he lined up as a defensive midfielder in most of his matches, or a central midfielder. He lined up in 32 matches at central midfield, so he would probably occupy one of those 2 defensive midfielder spots behind the attacking midfielder. And you might be asking, well, why is this the perfect seamless transition for Crystal Palace? This is perfect because you have Eze, who sat on the bench last year for Crystal Palace. You have Michael Elise on one side, you had Conor Gallagher, and you had Wilfried Zaha with Edouard up top. With Eze on the bench after his injury, he needs a spot to get in. Eze can play central attacking midfielder where Conor Gallagher was last year. This gives you a bright chance for a young, exciting Englishman as well to still fill in that English quota, but it brings you in a guy like Cheick Doucoure who fits into that midfield too so seamlessly and gives you a unbelievable defensive midfielder, but a guy who can also operate in central midfield, who's going to carry the ball, give you progressive passes, and also create so many chances for this Crystal Palace side as well. It'll give you another side of offense and defense, a player who can work back and seamlessly do what Conor Gallagher did, just from a bit of a deeper role. And this will get you guys to fit in into the attacking midfield role, which needs to be seen because he's a brilliant talent that we all want to watch in the world of football. But guys, that is the reason why I believe Cheick Doucoure is the perfect replacement for Conor Gallagher. He might not be fitting into the exact role on the pitch at number 10 that we saw Conor Gallagher operate, but he is seamlessly going to be the exact same player you got from Conor Gallagher, but just in a deeper role on the pitch. Cheick Doucoure is the perfect replacement for Conor Gallagher. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think Conor Gallagher is going to make the Chelsea lineup? Do you think Cheick Doucoure is the right replacement for Conor Gallagher? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to drop a like and hit the comments down below. And make sure to hit that sub button, guys, because we're switching to mostly all Premier League content. We're going to be doing some what's next, some transfer windows reviews, hitting up with some many big videos. I got some huge topics around Darwin Nunez, of course, Erling Haaland, the Leeds transfers so far. It's an exciting window, and I'm switching to Premier League content. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.